Greetings everyone, my name is Tiara Rockhammer from the Duchy of Ironhold, part of the Kingdom of the Desert Winds, and today I am going to show you how to crochet my Amtgard legal Octopus Spell Ball. This guy is legal up to Amtgard V8 standards. The tails do not go longer than 6 inches long, and the circumference of the sphere itself will not pass through the circumference of a 2.5 inch checker. So today, what you are going to need is you're going to need a core, and this can come in any shape of a squishy ball. We usually recommend the gamma balls, but sometimes these are harder to come across on Amazon and the like, so you can always get a stress ball, and an even smaller stress ball. This guy, as you can see, does go through our 2.5 checker here, and alone, maybe even with fabric, this might not be legal if it continues to go through as simple as that. But this guy was made with the same size, and as you can see, he's not going through the checker at all either. So with the yarn, that adds just enough of that bulk to make this one more legal. Alright, so you have your core, and remember, 2.5 inch wide, squishy. Can't be firm or it won't be legal. At the end of this, you will need a yarn needle. These can be found in metal and in plastic at any craft store. And you're also going to need your yarn marker. Now I have two here. This is the one that you can buy from the store. It clicks on and off real simple, and this is what you're going to see me use today. But in a pinch, if you don't happen to have one of those guys, you can always use a paper clip. I always like to bend my paper clips a little bit down in the center here. That way it has this loop. The yarn doesn't get caught so much on that metal bit there. And then it just slips all the way on, and that will mark my round for the turn. And you'll also need your snippies. And in this project, I usually use the size G hook or the 4.00 millimeter hook. Yarn, I use worsted weight yarn. Sorry, that's a mouthful for me. Usually size 4. I like the big twist value yarn. You can get this over at Joann's. Usually you can find a really good sale on them for $2.50 a piece online if you could keep an eye out on it. And as you can see, this guy is a size 4 medium. That is what this pattern calls for. Alright, I think that goes over all the materials. I'm going to keep aside one of these spell balls so I can go ahead and use that for my core and continue on to the next step. Alrighty, so now we'll get started. Make sure you have your stitch marker, your hook, and of course your yarn, and that's what you're going to need to get started. I will have the instructions, the pattern listed as we go, and I will also have timestamps in the description, so if you get lost, please go back to the description, and I will probably say this a few times, but if you have any questions or if anything seems amiss or wrong, please let me know. I'm more than happy to respond, either if it's on Facebook, at the park, or on YouTube comments. We'll go ahead and start, and the first thing we are going to start is a magic circle, or magic ring, whatever you like to call it. I have found so many different tutorials and so many different preferred ways of doing this. My way is probably not the best way, but it's just the way that I have found works best for me. Please do whatever works best for you. And there we go. So we have the start to our magic ring, and I'm going to do 6 single crochets in this ring to get it going. So we have our start. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so now we have 6 single crochet onto our magic ring here. We're going to give that tail a nice little tug, and then we're going to get that ring marker on there. And we're going to put that on the last mark of that 6. That way we know that's where our row ends. So we go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. For our row 2, we are going to be doing 2 single crochet in each of these ones. So we're going to end up with 12 at the end. So we'll go along this together. This first one always gives me a little bit of problem. I think I do it a little bit too tight. Again, I don't think it's the best magic circle start, but it works for me. Do what works for you. Okay, so now we got 2 into the same one. Now we're going to do the same thing into the next stitch. So 1 and 2. That would make 4, onto this, but we've only used 2 of the previous hook, or 2 of the previous stitches. So now we're going to go 5 and 6, same one, 7 and 8. Okay, we do the next one, 9, 10, take that off, 11 and 12. Alrighty, and we'll put that marker right back on to mark where we've been. And that is the completion of row 2. Usually about here is when I start making marks in my pad, just so I remember where I'm at. So for round 3, we're going to be doing single crochet and then an increased crochet. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and that's just going to be in the first 2 stitches here. So we'll do single crochet and then a double crochet, and that is the pattern for this round. So single and double and double. Okay, so we'll just follow that all the way down. Single and double. And I will finish here at round 3 and see you at round 4. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and remove our marker and do that increased stitch in that mark there, and that will be the end of row 3. Okay, replace that marker so we don't lose where we are at. I'm going to go ahead and make my little mark on my pad here. Okay, and then we have round 4, which is basically like round 3. We're going to be doing 1, 2, and then increase instead of the 1 increase. So we have 1, and then 2, and then we're going to increase. And that is going to be the repeating pattern for the row. We'll do it one more time together. We'll do 1. We'll do 2, and then we increase. So that's just 2 single crochet in the same stitch. Alrighty, and with that, that is our pattern repeat for round 4. Go ahead and continue on, and I'll meet you back when we get to our stitch marker here. So we're on the last part of that pattern repeat. We're going to go 1, 2, take out that stitch marker for that last increase of the row. So increase 1 and second for that increase. There we go, and we'll replace our stitch marker, and that marks the end of row 4. Row 5 is just like row 3 and 4, with except this time instead of 1, not 2, it's going to be 3, and then our increase. So we have 1, 2, 3, plus our increase there, and that's going to be our pattern to repeat for round 5. So we'll do it together. We go 1, 2, and 3. We'll go ahead and do our increase here. And again, 1, 2, 3, with that increase. Alright, we'll go ahead and continue on all the way down until we reach our stitch marker again. Here's our third, and we're going to do our increase. So we'll remove that marker. Go ahead and increase. and we'll replace that marker. Okay. So that was round 5. And before we continue on to round 6, let's go ahead and do a quick count. We want to make sure that we have 30 stitches all the way around before we continue on. So that has 30. And then for rows 6 through 15, so that's going to be 10 rows, we are just going to go all the way around in single crochets. So make sure that you don't accidentally skip any, don't put any increases in it. By the end of row 15, you want to still have 30 stitches all the way around. So let's go ahead and just start. And I will go ahead and reach you back when I hit row 10, just so you can kind of see my progress. But during this time, this is going to be the longest part of this pattern. Make sure that you're going through one stitch, not increasing, not decreasing, because you're going to want to make sure you have that magic number 30 at the very end of row 15. Trust me, it's going to make the tentacles and stuff at the very end a lot easier if we have the right count. So, you'll see me again when I hit row 10. One thing I wanted to mention, I know we are only on row 7, so I'm back a little bit sooner than what I was hoping for, but I forgot to mention, if you are following along with your own little pattern paper and book, make sure you put little tally marks or little marks down so you can see and remember where you're at. But if you have any problems trying to remember what row, you can always count to see which row you are on. So the middle circle here is our row 1, that's our magic ring. Row 2, row 3, row 4, 5, 6, and I'm on 7 right now. So just keep track so you don't lose track of where you're at, but you can always go back and count. Remember, you want 10 rows of 30 stitches each, and you're just going to be going around and around and around. So I will be back when we hit row 10 so you can kind of see the progress there. Alrighty, and that is where we're supposed to look at when we hit row 10. Just to verify, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that makes our 10. With that, we're going to continue on for another 5 rows until we reach row 15. Alright, we are ending our round 15 here soon. And once I get this last stitch done, we are going to go through and make sure we have our magic numbers correct. So what you're looking for is 15 rows. We're going to count down. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then we want to do one more check for our other second magic number, which is 30. We want to make sure that we have 30 all the way around. So we're going to start on row 16. This is going to be our last row that we do without having our insert inside. And this one is going to have one of our decreases. So it's going to be 3 stitches, 1 single, 2 single, 3 single, and then we're going to do a decrease stitch. So follow along here with me. We'll go ahead and do 1, 2, and 3. Now I have found a few different ways to do a decrease stitch, and the one I'm going to show you is the one that I've found that fits my technique the best. If you have a different type of decrease stitch that you would like to use, please feel free to do it. This is just a regular decrease. So the way that I like to do it, I'm going to try and get kind of close to the screen here. So you're going to go in through your first one, bring that through, and then you're going to go through a second stitch from the previous row. So you have 3 loops on your hook, then you're going to pull through all 3 hoops. And that is a decrease. And that kind of makes a little bit of a fat knot right here. We're going to do that again. and that's the pattern repeat for this row. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to do that decrease stitch, which is going to be insert, loop over, pull through, loop over the next, or go into the next stitch, loop over, pull through, so you have 3, and then you're going to pull all the way through. And that's going to be our pattern repeat, and I'll meet you when we hit back to our end of the pattern here. Alright, and here's our 3. We're going to do that decrease. We'll go ahead and remove our stitch marker since we know that the decrease stitch is still going to have that last mark in it. There we go with all 3, and finish that row off. And that is row 16. Now after we get this put on, this is where we want to insert our ball, the gamma ball, stress ball, whatever you have chosen to use. So we have just finished row 16 and we have inserted our core, so we are going to be moving on to row 17, which is very much like row 16 and where we're going to, instead of doing 3, we're going to do 2 and then our decrease. So we'll go ahead and start. We have 1, 2, and then that decrease, which is just taking those next 2 stitches, putting the 3 on the hook, and pulling through. And that is going to be the pattern repeat of row 17. I'll go ahead and do the next one with y'all. We'll do 1, 2, and decrease. Alright, go ahead and continue all the way around and I'll meet you when we get to our stitch marker. Okay, and we are on our last pattern repeat here with our 1, 2, we'll take out that stitch marker and do our last decrease stitch, and we'll replace that. Okay, and for the next 3 rows, and that's going to be row 18, 19, and 20, we are just going to be going around in single crochets all the way, and we should have 18 stitches that we're going to be doing, so just go ahead and double check real quick. And we're going to continue all the way around, and that's going to be rows for 18, 19, and 20, just like how we did for rows 6 through 15. We're going to remove that stitch marker, and we're going to place that last stitch for row 18, replace the stitch marker, and continue on to row 19, and just continue on with our single crochet stitches all the way around. Okay, finishing up row 19, and we'll take off the stitch marker, do that last stitch. We just replaced that stitch marker, and we're going to continue on to row 20. And this is just going to continue all the way around, just like the last 2 rows. And I'll meet you back at the stitch marker. Taking off the stitch marker so we can do that last stitch for row 20, and then we're going to continue on to row 21, and row 21 is very similar to row 4, where we're going to do a single crochet, and then 2 single crochet, making increased stitch in that 3rd stitch there. So do the first couple with you, then we'll continue on with the row. So we'll do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and then we'll flare it back out with a double single crochet, or 2 single crochets in that, making 4 crochets in the first 3 stitches there. And that's going to be our pattern repeat. So I'll go ahead and do that with y'all one more time. We'll do single crochet, single crochet, and then 2 single crochets in the same stitch. We'll continue that all the way around, and I'll see you back at that stitch marker. 1, 2, go ahead and take off that marker and put 2 doubles in that same spot, and that's going to be the end of row 21. We'll go ahead and put back our stitch marker, mark it off. Okay, and then now we finished row 21, we are going to start row 22, and it's very similar to row 5, where we're going to have 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 single crochet, and then an increase crochet on that 4th stitch there. So we'll just go ahead and do 1, 2, and 3, and in that 4th stitch we're going to do a double, or we are going to do an increase stitch, which is 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and that's our pattern repeat for row 22. So we'll do that again. So we have 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, and then increase. So that's 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Okay, and we'll continue this pattern all the way down, and I'll meet you back at the stitch marker. Okay, we are on our last repeat of row 22. We have our 1, 2, 3. We'll go ahead and take off that stitch marker and put 2 more single crochets in that, and that will mark the end of row 22. That also marks the end of the main part of the body. We'll go ahead and re-put that in, and I found that this step is optional. I like putting it in just so I can make sure when I finish off my tentacles that I have the last 3 stitches as I'm supposed to. And real quick, we are going to go through and make sure that we have 30 stitches all the way around before we start our next step for row 23. Now that we've made sure that we have 30 stitches all the way around, we can start our tentacles, and they start out with 16 chains. So from where we put our stitch marker, we're going to chain 16. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And then from here we're going to start doing our half double crochets. And half double crochet is much like our single crochet, but instead of just going into the hole that you need, you're going to yarn over and then put it through the stitch just like that. And we're putting in we're using the second stitch from the hook, because that first stitch would be too hard to get that angle in. So second stitch in, and we're going to continue that all the way down to the base, and that should be about 15 half double crochets. Okay, we reach that final stitch, we'll yarn over, and this will make 15, and that finishes our first tentacle. We are going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches on our body. So first one, second stitch, and third stitch. And that right there is our first of the pattern repeat. And we're going to continue this all the way around, and once we get to this last stitch marker here, that will be that last third stitch of our final tentacle, and that should make our 10 tentacles all the way around. I'll go ahead and do the second tentacle with you guys. So from here we are going to chain 16. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Okay, and then our half double crochets all the way down. Try not to get tangled up. It's easier if this doesn't spin around. If you can avoid it, keep the stitches as straight as you can. finish that tentacle. We made it all the way back down. We're going to do single crochet in the next 3. And there we go. Now we have 2 tentacles, and we're going to continue that pattern repeat all the way around until we have our 10 and meet our marker. And I'll meet you guys back here in just a moment. And remember, just 16 up, half double crochet back, 3 across. 16 up, half double back, 3 across. And I'll see you back here. Okay, we have just finished the 3 stitches of our tentacle number 9. So I'll do this last tentacle here with you. So we should have our 3 here. Then we're going to chain 16. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. We'll half double crochet all the way down. And I've also seen people do their tentacles with 2 half double crochets in each of these, which would make it 30 in each of these legs instead of 15 for the half double crochets going down. If you would like your tentacles to curl a lot more, you're more than welcome to do that. Feel free to edit and modify the pattern to however you would like your spell ball needs. We're almost back down to the bottom here. Doing our half double crochet. We reached our last one here. We're going to do those 3 single crochets in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and in this last stitch where the stitch marker's at, instead of doing a single crochet, I like to do a slip stitch, just to kind of give it more of an even, seamless end, I suppose. Give it 1 more single crochet, and then I'll pull that through. You don't need a terribly long tail for this next part, so I'll just make a small little tail, trim that off, and there we go. We now have our body. So what I like to do next is just to get rid of this tail, so we're going to go ahead and find our tapestry needle, yarn needle, thread that on. Having a yarn threader can be a world of difference. I don't have one. I recommend one if you do a lot of yarn work. I need to look into getting one. I'm going to try and wiggle that needle back through the bulk of the yarn. And you want it to be as hidden as possible on both sides. Give it a nice little tug, and that's where it used to be there. Go ahead and trim that tail off. And there we go. Finished. Well, body finished. And now you have an octopus with 10 tentacles. And next we are going to make the cap for the bottom. And the cap is the same pattern as the first 3 rows that we did for our top part here. And repeating row number 1, we're going to get that magic green going with the 6 single crochet on it. Go ahead and tighten that up into our circle. We will need that stitch marker again. Mark that last stitch you did. And we're going to do 2 single crochet in each of those 6 marked ones that we just did. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one's our 6. Remember, 2 and 1. So 5. And 10. We'll take out that stitch marker and do 11 and 12. Here's 11 and 12. Go ahead and put that stitch marker in one last time. And just like in row 3 of the original body, that's going to be a single crochet in that first stitch and then an increase in that next one. So single and then an increase, which is just 2 and 1. Do that all the way around. Go ahead and take that stitch marker out, double it, or not double, increase it, and then I like to do a slip stitch in my next one, and then that chain. We're going to leave a little bit longer of a tail this time when we cut it. Go, pull that through, tighten that up, tighten the center a little bit, and now we have our cap. We're going to go ahead and take our tapestry needle again, and this is my preference. You can totally keep it so it's like this, but I prefer to flip it around just because I feel like that matches a little bit better. But that's totally my preference, and you can do whatever you would like. But for me, I have to go ahead and insert my tapestry needle. I usually just try and put it in the center. Okay, pull that through. Now it's last I have to worry about that guy. And with that tail that we just pulled through, if you're doing my way, I like to just gently tuck it in. That way it's kind of being held in place. Flip it down. Let's get the needle put on our new tail here. Hashtag threaders for days. Okay, and then we are going, I usually like to try and just tuck the patch right on top. We're going to find a couple of threads, and you only want to take the surface thread because you don't want to go all the way through to the other side, or you're going to have a whole row of just stitches. So try and just pull up the surface thread here, and then I'll go into the next stitch on there. Kind of give it a nice tug, make sure it's nice and taut. We'll do that again, and the next stitches, do just the upper stitches through that stitch, and pull through. We're going to continue that all the way around. Okay, and as you can see here, we have reached the end. What I usually like to do to make this a temporary, semi-permanent type of closure, just in case you ever need to access your spell ball or the core for whatever reason, push all the way through, give it just a very gentle tug because you don't want it to be pulling all the way through, making a little weird divot, and then kind of skip over one stitch over so there's something to hold on to. Go back and forth just like this for just a couple of rounds. And then on my last one, what I like to do is make just a little bit longer of a stitch, just ever so slightly. Pull that through, trim it, and then when we pull back, kind of soften this back out, straighten it up. We can find this thread here, and if we ever needed to, pull it all the way back out and just kind of undo your little spider web that you have going on there, and then you can undo that bottom. But there we go. And just like that, you should have your very own Amtgard legal spell ball. As you can see with our finished guy here, it won't go through our 2.5 inch checker. Your tentacles are going to be about 4.5 to 5 inches long, and you can make adjustments as long as that doesn't go over the 6 inches long for the Amtgard legality. And you are all set. You should have your own spell ball now. If you have any questions or comments, or if there's something hinky that you'd like to let me know, please don't hesitate to comment below or reach out to me. Thank you and have a great day.